Hello. Okay, guys. So I am another year older and we have a new episode coming at you.
Yes, happy birthday.
I actually like for the first time in a while actually just sat and like was lazy and watched movies. Like I legit feel like since the twins I haven't watched like a full movie without stopping in like forever because I got to pause for something or I got to do something like the movie gets broken up into days. Like,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah,
was nice. It
legit.
was nice to just be lazy for like I don't even that's a luxury now. It's weird.
It is to just be able to sit still and not have 80,000 things on your mind.
Yes, like today's episode. Today's episode is a little bit extra in I'm putting my family on blast today, guys. No, I'm just kidding. Well, we're gonna be talking about toxicity, toxic families, how it can affect your health, your mental health, your life, your relationships. It can spiral down, it can go all directions. I've had it get to the point where like, you know, my husband wanted to just like he was because we were living with my grandmother for a little bit because we got pregnant with the twins and then COVID hit. So we were living there while all the madness was going on because especially in the beginning, no one really knew like how serious is this? Are we all gonna die? Like, yeah, like it was very for the first couple months, no one really knew what was going on. And so we're there, and my grandma over the years, and then you add in like age and forgetfulness and dementia and that kind of stuff. She's never been diagnosed yet, but we all kind of think that she has it because she'll ask you the same thing 15 times.
Yeah.
You can get irritated when you start to get frustrated after you answer it for the 15th time. But it got to the point where like she just would start issues and say stuff that just didn't need to be said. Like you'd be sitting there and I remember we had a huge blowout right before we moved. Just to give an example of the kind of stuff she'll say. And right before we moved, everything had been on the moving truck and my flight wasn't for a couple of days. And so we didn't have any of our stuff. And so me and the boys were just kind of eating. I put these little tarps down that I could just wash in between meals. And the boys are a year old. So what's the first thing they do when I set the plate on the ground? Because the high chairs were on the moving truck. They grab the plate and they dump it because they're kids.
Yeah.
And so after trying to put the food back on the plate 15 times, I eventually was just like, you know what? I'm just going to clean everything in between each meal and let them do whatever they want to do.
Exactly.
And she came in and was like, you know, Presley, you should probably learn to be a better mother and not feed your kids on the floor like dogs.
Yikes.
Yeah. I went off in a way that I've never gone off before. I think it was just the mother thing. You know, I don't know. She's insulted me so many times over the years. I just kind of like don't even hear, which is obviously bad that I'm so used to it that it doesn't even like it just goes out.
Yeah.
But in that moment, I think I said some really mean stuff in that moment that I regret and don't regret. Like I think it was just a boiling point. I had gotten to the point and we were about to move and I was just over it. And we ended up packing up that night and I stayed at my mom's house for the last 2 days until the flight because I was over it.
Done. Yeah.
But that, you know, it can affect your mental health. It can affect your relationships. There was a point because she would always talk down to my kid's dad. Like he would work a 14-hour overnight shift, like 6 at night to like 8 in the morning. And then she'd want him to mow the lawn when he got home. And then if he was tired or he didn't really feel like it, or he did it, but he didn't do all that great of a job because he's half asleep. And then she'd be like, oh, well, Marcus didn't do a very good job in the lawn there. Like she would just make these comments. It's like, look, feel free to get out there and mow it yourself or hire someone. This is your house. Like, we don't mind helping out, but if you're going to sit there and
criticize.
nitpick
Yeah.
everything I do, then I'm just not going to do anything. Feel free to pay somebody.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where he almost wanted to move to his dad's house and just give me, even though, have visitation with the boys and pay me child support because he didn't want to live there anymore. And it wasn't that he didn't love me and he didn't love the kids. He just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and did he come from a place? Well, I don't know if he wants you to share that. I guess you can choose to share or not. But did he come from a place of criticism or love? Like, was that something he was used to or not used to being around?
I would say a little bit of both. He had little issues here and there growing up. Like, he was kind of a more soft-hearted guy, why is his brother and dad are more like, manly men. Marcus is a more introverted, soft-hearted type of person. So he would deal with a little bit of criticism in that way from like his dad and his brother.
Yeah.
That he was more of a monogamous, nice guy instead of I want to date a few different girls until I find the right one type of guy. Like, he was just different from them in that aspect, but he had never been broken down to that extent.
Okay.
So yeah, it was normal and new at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this wasn't someone that was family. This is someone, a total outsider that's just talking shit to you 24/7.
Yeah. That's rough. And I feel like too, with elderly, they feel like they can just say whatever because you know what? They're like, I've lived my life, at least from certain experiences that I've had with family or being, not even with family, but like around the elderly, they really do feel like they're entitled to say whatever's on their mind and they can just say whatever and it doesn't hurt people's feelings. And like, well, I'm old, so, I can say whatever. Like, I've heard that a lot of times and it's like, well, yes and no. Like, yeah, we're all entitled to say what we feel, but like when it comes to like, I guess, hurting somebody else's feelings or attacking somebody, like there's boundaries that need to happen,
Yeah, it's almost a form of, I guess, narcissism where you feel like you can just do whatever.
That's exactly what I wrote down. You read my mind.
Do whatever you want without a consequence. And it's like, look, there's a certain point, and it wasn't like she was just helping us out. Like, we were paying between rent and we paid the cable bill and we did chores and yard work. But altogether, just between rent and bills, it was about $800 a month, which is literally what we pay now in Texas for our place by ourselves. And we were just renting a room.
That just reminded me of something. But yeah, I feel like,
but it's also California.
And I hear California, this is a whole different ballgame. We get sideways a lot, guys, if you've catched any of our other podcasts. I feel like I've heard California is expensive. Like, my brother lived out there for years while we're talking about family. And I've heard how expensive it was. I think they had like a 1-bedroom apartment and it was like so outrageous. And then they moved here to Ohio and had a 2-bedroom and paid like $300 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment, kitchen, bathroom, living room,
It's crazy.
But that reminds me. So like, and for those of you that are new, I'm in therapy, weekly therapy sessions, working through a lot of stuff and trauma and healing and a lot of the things that I'm learning. We're on this topic of family and toxicities and narcissism. Is I've been surrounded by narcissists. I've made relationship choices where probably all of them have been a narcissist. If I'm being honest, or toxic relationships. And as we're breaking it down and we're talking about this family topic, I like more recent sessions have been like, yeah, Karen, you just have a history of narcissistic people being around you, and one of the things I would like to put in here is like a resource for you. Because, we like to educate you guys and throw out like stats, statistics and things like that. We like to give you some real life, things. So, Codependent No More is a good book for you if you have, like, if you can relate to anything that we're saying, with toxic families or narcissistic people in your lives. Codependent No More is a good one. I was going to get you the author. I have it. It's either over here or over there. It's on the shelf. So I will, maybe you can drop it later or something like that, but you can look it up. I can't remember right now. I have like the name in my head, but you can find it on Amazon. That's a good book for you. So while we're on the topic, if you want to educate yourself more, that would be a really good one. I started reading it.
You can almost get used to it too. Like,
yeah.
And where if you're not around it, like, you'll almost be suspicious of people who are too nice, like, or
what's their intentions, like what's going on. Yeah.
And it breaks you down. Like, I remember I guess you could call it like not an eating addiction, but I definitely would eat my feelings for sure. Like, she would, when you're around that all the time, and to the point like where I didn't even want to leave the room to go to the kitchen to make anything to eat. So I did a lot of DoorDash and a lot of like food I probably shouldn't have ate, and gained weight. And it's just because you don't even want to be around them. You don't want to leave the room. You almost feel like you're paying to be trapped in this room because you avoid it. Or at least me, like, I'm not a conflict person. So like I would avoid her at all costs. And
for sure.
That would hurt because it's like, it sucks to not have the relationship with a family member that you want to have. Like, you want to have, like, especially your grandmother, you're thinking grandma with her cookies and getting together at her house every Christmas.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, she was like that. And as she got older, and then in 2008, she lost a bunch of money when the housing market crashed. And I feel like that's when she really flipped. She became, kind of money hungry, and it just kind of changed her through and through. Like, I had to pay her rent from the day I turned 18. And I mean, which isn't bad. I mean, I grew up understanding money and bills pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it just, you'd get kicked out if you didn't pay your rent, or if you pissed her off, or she was is one of those people that kind of likes to have something likes to have something over your head.
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah.
She likes to have something over your head. And when she doesn't have something that she can hold over you, she gets mad, really mad.
Yeah. And I feel like too, that as they get older, sometimes that it becomes like an even more issue because, well, from what I've learned being in school with the elderly, like geriatric population, when they feel like they lose control of so many things. And so, like, God bless my grandma's heart. So my grandma and my mom live next door to me, and I would be considered like a caretaker for them. We've had we've helped each other, like going through nursing school. Like, I had my grandma, like I had her support, and I appreciate all of that. And one of the ways that she would do is like make sure make sure they were fed, do you guys have food? She would cook dinner. So that way, when I got home from school or work or whatever, dinner was done, kids were taken care of. I appreciate that. And now that I'm staying at home and I'm able to be at home, yesterday, this was one of the things, and I wouldn't really say it's a toxic thing, but it's also like, she obsesses over making sure we have dinner. Now, granted, my grandma's German, so like food is always a big thing for her. Like, I get that. Like, that's her love language, and giving is her love language, all of that. So it's good. It's good things, but there's like, I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, unless I say or whatever, because we used to have this thing. We have this unit, like, which can be helpful, but not helpful. Sometimes I feel like my daughter lives there. Before that, when my daughter was actually in the home still, my brother and his wife lived in the rental apartment behind me. Then it was me and my mom and my grandma and my grandpa when he was here. So we had this whole like little community. And but now that my daughter's there, we would do like every day, everybody pick a day. So like my daughter did Mondays. I'm just throwing this out there. I did Tuesdays. My mom was cooking Wednesdays. My grandma cooked Thursdays. Friday, we did pizza Fridays, Saturday, Sunday, leftovers, and we started all over. So when like we're talking about those things, like my grandma was like, every day it's like, what do you want for dinner? What do you want for dinner? What do you want for dinner? And I appreciate it. I really do. But like, I finally just told him yesterday, like, cause she gets really upset. Like she gets really, really upset about the whole like dinner thing. And I think it's because like, she doesn't feel like she can control anything right now. And she's not really helping. Like she wants to help, but I'm like, don't stress yourself out about it. Like we're all going to be all right. We're going to eat, we're going to have food, we're going to be fine. But I know that's just something that she's trying to adjust with because she doesn't feel useful. And I don't want to say it's a toxic or controlling thing. She needs to feel useful. But like at this point in my life, my situation has changed and I did rely on my family a lot. But now that I've been trying to work on those boundaries and my own self-sufficiency, like it's like, that's where that book has been kind of helpful because yes, they did help so much, but now it's like, okay, like you don't need to do it. Like you're fine. Take care of you at this point. Like I just want them to focus on them and less on me. And they've had a history of like enabling, and I'm not just meaning me, I'm meaning like other family members. And so now that I'm working through those, like seeing how our family patterns have been and trying to change some of those things, change is hard for people, especially when you get a certain age because you lived your whole life like that. And you don't want to be told, like, especially elderly, like I'm sure your grandma don't want you telling her like, well, grandma, what you're doing really isn't healthy. Or, I'm not really going to tolerate that. That's kind of damaging to me. That's causing me to feel depressed and isolated. And it's messing with my self-esteem.
Oh, she won't care. She's the type who'll tell you, oh, that's life. Get over it.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that's not really coming from a place of like, that's not healthy, No, like those are your feelings and those are real feelings and that's bothering you. And that type of response.
And it's a generational thing. If that's anything I've learned, my poor mom and her don't have a very good relationship. And so me and my mom for the longest time didn't have a very good relationship. We only started to really bond, I would say, the last few years. Me and my mom living together was not good. Like I moved out as soon as I turned 18 because we were just, my mom's very sensitive. I'm very blunt. And my mom did not like if I was telling her that what she was doing was stupid or something. My mom kind of went through like a midlife crisis when I was 17, 18. I call it a midlife crisis, but she was only like 40, but she'd broken up with a longtime boyfriend, my little brother's dad. And she went through this phase and she wasn't a heavy drinker ever, but she started going to the bar more. And like this one night, she didn't show up till like 3 a.m. ish, 4 a.m. and showed up on the back of some random guy's Harley to our like front of our apartment. And I'm 17 waiting up for her to make sure she's okay. And I was like, I got so pissed. I was like, Mom, this is bullshit. You're supposed to be waiting up for me to get home. I was so mad. But it's one of those things. It's just, it gets passed on. And that's where you have to, like you said, create those boundaries and don't let that kind of generational curse continue. So I want to make sure that I'm very loving and supportive of my boys. And I mean, I'm going to be me and I'm going to be blunt and tell them when they're being dumb. And hey, that's probably a bad decision.
Yeah.
But I don't want to continue this spread of negativity of this, of where it's normal to be talking shit to each other and putting each other down. And like I said, where you get so used to it, where it just kind of goes. And, when I realized it was a problem was my grandma moved a roommate in because she had a 4-bedroom house. We had one room. There was a room for the twins. And then she rented out the other bedroom. And the roommate one day, she had been living there about a year, and for the first time got into it with my grandma and got to see the real her.
Yeah.
And I was like walking into the hallway to do laundry, and she's like crying, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? And she was telling me the stuff that my grandma said to her, and she was just like, how are you so calm right now? And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest, girl, I'm just kind of used to it. You just kind of learn with her. She just says stupid shit, and then she goes back in her room and pouts for a little bit, and you just kind of ignore her.
Yeah.
And like all of us are, I guess, just kind of used to it, and we just don't let her bother us anymore at this point. But it was kind of like a moment for me where I was like, holy crap, man, like that's bad. Like this girl who has come from, she was Hispanic and had a bunch of very awesome family from that still lived in Mexico. I loved when her family would come visit because they always brought the best food. But she come from a very tight-knit family that talked to each other all the time, visited each other like at least a couple times a year. Her and her daughter would fly out to Mexico to visit her dad and her mom. And she had never been around stuff like that before. And I was just like, I felt so bad. Where I was like,
what?
I was like, man, sorry. Like, and like I said, it was kind of an awakening moment for me where I was like, oh, that's bad that like this is normal and we're just kind of like so nonchalant about the fact that she can say some really, really hurtful things and we're just used to it.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I mean, for myself, and kind of what I've heard a little, like, I don't know, I guess it's kind of like you question like yourself and your choices, or, you know, the eggshell feeling. And then you wonder, like, am I good enough? You know, like, so for like, you know, Marcus, right? Yeah. Like working all those hours, coming home, you know, and to a guy, I can't speak for guys, but I mean, I guess from what I've heard, like, you know, guys, their big things like, yeah, I'm providing for my family, you know, like I'm doing good. Like and like them being able to do that, like they are like, yes, you know, I did something great. And then when she's like, well, it didn't matter how many hours he just worked, like mow the lawn. Like, okay, you know.
Oh, and then you did it and you did a bad job.
Yeah, or complain the way you did do the lawn. Like, what? And then it'd be like, well, am I good enough? Like, no matter what I do, is it going to be good enough type deal? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to think, you know,
it wears on your mind.
How damaging. Yeah. The effects mentally that toxic families and situations and relationships, I mean, have on your mental health or like your self-esteem, you know, feeling about how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it started to affect us to the point where like we both considered at one point kind of ending the relationship because it was more stress than it was worth. But then that's kind of where we were like, well, wait a minute, is this because we're not working or because this household like isn't working?
Right.
And I mean, thankfully,
yeah, I can see that.
Thankfully, I have we've been together 6 years, and we've gotten to a point in our relationship where we can cool down and talk about stuff, thankfully, and we don't just break up and go about our day. And then we have the twins now too, so that adds a different layer to it. Right. But I think the twins is really what brought things into perspective for both of us, where we decided like, okay, we're going to save up and we're going to move, because I don't want the boys to grow up thinking this shit is normal. This is not the type of household I want them around. And the big thing was too, my Texas side of the family is polar opposite. My Texas side of the family is extremely close knit. They're very Southern, and the entire family lives throughout the state of Texas, but manages to get together every Christmas, sometimes every Thanksgiving, but for sure every Christmas. The entire family gets together. The boys got hella spoiled this Christmas. They have so many toys. They're the type of family who, I'm not going to drop which aunt it was, but there was a point in my
Oh,
life. Uh-oh, we lost you.
somebody's calling in. Sorry.
There was a point in my life where I had gotten really behind financially, just made some stupid decisions and had a extremely high car payment that I'm not proud of. Um, and I'd gotten behind and was about to lose the car. I was about to get repoed, and one of my aunts gave me $1,400
Wow.
to catch up on the payments. Um, Still, like, with the intention, obviously, I'm going, to pay her back for that. It wasn't like a gift, but it was like,
Right.
here, I'm going to do this for you to get you out of your hole, and then when you can pay me back, pay me back. Like, don't stress on it.
Yeah.
When you can, obviously, do it. But that's the type of family they are. Like, if you're in a spot, they're going to help you.
Right.
And so it's like polar opposite from that side of the family. And I mean, not to talk too much shit about my mom's side of the family. I do love them all. And even my grandma, it's hard for me to explain to Marcus sometimes why I even still bother with my grandma after everything we went through the last couple of years, especially. But I think it goes back to my childhood. Like, there was a lot of stuff and a lot of mistakes that my mom and stuff was making when I was younger, which she's made up for, but she wasn't making the best decisions when I was a kid. And
Yeah.
if it wasn't for my grandma, I would have had a way different childhood, because
Right.
her and my grandpa are the ones that came to every play, every graduation, paid for all the school trips, paid for most of my clothes, made sure that I experienced stuff when I was a kid, took me to YMCA to learn how to swim, like all that type of stuff. My grandpa taught me how to drive. So it was, it's like, as much as she drives me insane, and I think that
Yeah.
she can be kind of toxic. And at this point in my life, I kind of have her, we don't have much communication other than when she calls to see the boys, like FaceTime. But I'll always have, no matter what, a piece of my heart for her, because I know I
Yeah.
would have had a way different childhood without her. So
Well,
it's like, I
yeah. And
can't
I think,
completely write her off, but I can
yeah.
distance myself.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like that part right there. Yes. I swear we will be on the same way. Like I will be like writing, like, so like, I'm like, yes. And then you will say it. And I'm like, yeah, like, it's not like you're not being grateful. And I don't want you to think that I'm not, or any of our viewers, like we're not ungrateful for our family or whatever. But I think the thing is, and the most important part is, like, I'm totally grateful. Like, my mom was a single mom. She raised me and my brother. I'm a single mom of 6. And my family, without my family support, I would not have been able to do the things that I've been able to do. So I'm totally grateful for that. But I think as you grow and you evolve and you work on yourself, and you realize like there's things that like you want for your, like you said, like things that you want for your kids that was different for you growing up. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that that's the difference. Like that's the mom life, guys. Sorry. That's the difference between what we're trying to get out to you guys, is the fact that you see what you want for your kids, and that's your right as a mother. That's your right as a parent in general. Like, these are the type of healthy habits. These are the type of generational patterns and cycles that we had growing up that we don't want to continue for our kids. And that's our goal. Like, that's our main thing that we had in common as we connected and as we've been getting closer with our own relationship, and things that we had in common was like, these are the things that we want for our kids. Like, this is how it was for us, but this isn't what we want to continue on as these cycles and patterns, for our children. And I think that's just the main thing. And we're allowed, we want our children to be happy and healthy. And I definitely want my kids to be better. Not to be better. How do I say that? To have better boundaries with things that they're not okay with. Like, you do not have to accept, something that makes you feel like you have to question yourself, or like that you're not good enough, or, and by any means, now that I'm working on myself and I'm trying to step out of those toxic patterns and behaviors, like, or things that didn't make me feel very good inside. or that I see going around me now that I'm working on myself more. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not really okay with that. And like, I'm not, one thing I just talked to my counselor about with yesterday or Wednesday, was like, and I tell my daughter this too, because her dad is a narcissist. I told y'all, I think all of them, all of them are, but, she went to see him for Christmas, and like, she ended up leaving in tears. And I'm like, you know what? Just because that's your father, like, you do not have to be around anybody that makes you feel bad or anybody that hurts you. Like, it does not, I don't care who it is. Like, family, I said, if I ever make you feel some type of way, or, have you like that, like, check me, like, let me know, because that's not okay. Like, I don't care who it is, if it's family, friend, whatever, anybody that makes you feel that way. So like, that's where I think where our goal is with that, like, is that we just really want something different for our kids, and we're not perfect. I've failed many times. I've been a mom since I was 15. So, and
there
at
is
15,
no such
what
thing as
really do we
perfect
know?
motherhood in general, man. Like, motherhood is a constant learning journey.
And it's stressful as heck. If y'all didn't catch the mental health one, check it out. It's a little bit of a hot mess because, mom life, but
we're gonna do a part 2 to that too, freshen it up a little bit.
So, but we don't have all the answers either, but we're allowed to make those changes, and those toxic behaviors and patterns from our family. You don't have to. You don't have to do that alone.
Permission to make you feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to feel bad if you need to distance yourself from people, whether they be family, friends, significant other, whatever. No one is ever going to benefit from being mentally broken down all the time. Like, like, legitimately, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, that's not going to do anything for you.
Yes. And like you said, it continues. Like, we have to decide, like, we want to make these changes because we don't want this to be something that keeps going and going and going for like generations to come. Like, we're trying to like stop these things, and that's how it should be, because it's just going to just keep spreading like fires, like, why? Right.
Yeah, that's exactly 100% the biggest thing. Like, when it came down to having the twins, Marcus and I were just like, look, we're going to nip this in the butt right now. We're going to save up our money. We're going to get our own place. We're going to raise them around family that is loving. And
yeah, for sure.
Of course, every family has their moments where you're going to get on each other's nerves. But when it comes down to, like, at the end of the day, if I was to lose my home tomorrow, I know whether it would be my dad, my aunts, one of them would open up, my cousin, someone would open up a place for us. Like,
well, and you want them to feel safe and secure. And like my friend told me yesterday, she's like, you know what, like, I was kind of talking to her about some situations that's been going on in the family when we were talking about toxic and negative and things that were said. And she's like, and it doesn't mean that it has to be forever. Like, It doesn't mean that you're like, you know what, forget you, you're out of my life, I never want to see you again. Like, you're done, period. You're done. And keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? But she's like, it doesn't have to be forever. Just like for this time being, you know what? Like, this doesn't feel good to me. Like, this is not something that's bringing me joy. This is hurting me. And like our health, you talked about that in the beginning, physically, mentally, for me, it's been physically showing. And so like, she's like, it doesn't have to be forever, but for right now, you know what? I can't talk to you. I can't continue to keep carrying on these conversations or even being near you. And like you chose, like, you love your grandma, you still communicate, whatever, but you're just not in that same environment anymore. You chose to take your kids and go to a different environment. And that's not it wasn't a forever thing. Like, you're like, I'm done with you. I'm never going to talk to you again. You're like, yeah, you know what? This isn't really good for us. We're going to move somewhere else. And now you can love her from a distance. And that's what sometimes you have to do for people. Love them from a distance, Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not going to take it out on my kids. Like, they were there when they were born. And I will say, her and my aunt were really, really helpful to me in those first couple months with my postpartum. And if I needed to go to a store or something, I always had that reliability to watch them, which is helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to take that away. And if they want to FaceTime them, I'll do my best to be available. But I did have to set some boundaries even recently where like they were calling every day. And I'm just like, look, I got these 2 little toddlers that are running around. The boys are 19.
They need you.
They're
Yeah.
19 months now. So they're nonstop running around the house. They don't stand. It's constant. I'm cleaning up the house. Like I said, that moving truck finally just showed up a month ago. So it's like I'm still kind of getting organized and cleaning stuff and doing this and doing that and making food. And, I got this business here that we're doing. I'm constantly uploading things to the social medias, editing videos, editing pictures, posting stuff, setting up different stuff for us. Like we have a Patreon now, guys. So I'm doing all this different stuff. It's like, it's not like I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs all day long watching TV. Like, it's like, I need you guys to respect the boundaries that if I can call you, I'll call you. If I can answer, I'll answer. If I'm not answering, it means I'm busy. Don't call me 6 times. Because once you start to do that, when you call me 4 times, now I'm purposely not going to answer because now you fucking irritated me.
Oh, now she being petty, y'all. No, I'm just kidding.
I will do when you annoy me to a certain point. I'm that person that's like, well, now I'm definitely not going to answer because you're not getting the hint that I'm busy, and you obviously don't respect the fact that I'll get back to you. So I'm going to let you wait, and then I'll get to you when I can get to you.
Respect my time. That's what she's trying to say. Respect her time. Her time is valuable. And it is. Everybody's time is valuable, but that's what she's trying to tell y'all. So family, if you're watching this, no, I'm just kidding.
I do. My aunt, I think.
But it's true.
Sometimes.
It's true. It's true. I mean, respect. And that's exactly what it is. The respect and boundaries, you know?
And like I said, I'm not trying to throw my grandma under the bus. She really is a good person deep down. I think she's developed maybe some bad habits that she needs to work on in herself, but she's also in her 70s. So it's kind of like you get what you get at this point. She's probably not going to change. Can't teach an old dog new tricks type thing. You take her with a grain of salt, but I'll always love her and respect her for, the fact that, like I said, my childhood would have been a lot different without her. But
Amen.
It's one of those things where it's like, but it doesn't mean just because I love you and I know, and I'm grateful for you, it doesn't mean I have to sit here and take your abuse either.
Exactly. Because that's not love. That's not love. And I'm not doubting that she doesn't love you or that she loves you, whatever. I'm not doubting that. But that's the whole point, that's the whole point. It is a little abusive, and it hurts. And so that's all you want her to know. Yeah. Totally. And I think it's hard too, because they don't really, that's kind of where we're at. Like, I feel like I can relate to you because it's like my grandma, I'm like, well, do you know that kind of hurts? Or do you just not care? I don't know. Like, because you're in the older age, is it just like whatevs? I don't know. It's an interesting concept. But I think it's just one of those things. Like I had a heart to heart with her yesterday when she came over, and my grandma's in her 80s though.
But that's that thing. Like you get to that certain age and it's kind of like, you almost feel like, you're not going to be able to change them, but it also doesn't mean you have to sit there and take it.
Exactly. When I just told her too, and I said, we were having some conversations about some other things, and I'm like, you know what? Do you, grandma? Like, you're 80 some years old and you talk about these things. And I'm like, but you need to just kind of do it, because like, it's not helping any of us around you. And I was like, I just told her, I'm like, you deserve to be happy too. So if that's what you choose to do, like, don't use me as an excuse. Don't use my mom as an excuse. Like, don't use anybody else as an excuse to do what's really going to bring you joy, because it's like, here's the spreading thing. Like, it's coming back, intentionally or not, it is. So I'm like, do what's going to bring you joy. Stop complaining about it and just go do what you want to do. Because
I relate to that so much too. Because me and my aunt have been trying to convince her for years now to just sell her house, because her house in California is worth like probably $700,000-800,000.
Nice.
And she
Wow.
has it almost paid off. And I
Wow.
was like, and she keeps it for all of us in case we need a place to go. But like, I'm at this
Girl.
point, like my cousin's got his own place and he's good to go. I'm good to go.
Oh,
I
I swear, I think we
don't
have the same
think with
grandma.
everything that happened the last couple of years, I don't see myself ever going back. I will work 20 jobs at a time to keep this place before like, I go back. And
That's wild.
the only one that is really still there with her is my aunt, because my aunt got let go during the pandemic, and then now she has knee replacements and all kind of stuff that need to be done. So
Yeah.
and she's just kind of at an age where she's over it and she knows my grandma's going to need some taking care of soon.
Right,
so
right.
she's like there to take care of her. But I was just like, you know what you need to do is just sell that place. She loves like Palm Springs in that area. I was like, sell the house,
smaller.
go get a little condo in Palm Springs that you'll have paid off. You'll have all this extra money in the bank. She's been wanting to get a facelift for years because that's one of her things. And I was like, go get your facelift.
Okay, grandma, go ahead.
Get your condo and
do what makes you happy. Yeah.
Chill.
Do what brings you joy. Like,
stop
don't
trying to take care of all of us, because it's honestly just pushing us all away the more you try and hold on. Let go.
That is so sad.
Enjoy your wonder years, you know, like she lost my grandpa a few years ago and she's been trying to get her life, you know, back in order and stuff. And, you know, and I get that. And that's, I think, why we really tried to be there.
Yeah.
Because I knew like having the boys around would be a nice thing for her. But it's just like, it's gotten to a point where it's just like, you need to just do what's going to be better for you. You're in your 70s now. Like, you need to just, you can't, I mean, it's a huge house. It has like a 2-acre backyard and stuff. Like, you're not going to be able to upkeep the yard. You're not going to be able to do all the repairs that need to be done to the house. The house was built in the 80s. There's stuff that's starting to need to be redone, you know. And I'm just like, you're not going to be able to do and handle all the upkeep by yourself. And Auntie's also getting up there in age. So it's like, she's not going to be able to do it either without starting to break her back. And you're going to break your back. It's just like, it's at the point where it's just like, sell this place. It's
letting go.
Sell the place to a new family that's going to use it for the next 20 years themselves. Go get yourself your little condo, get your facelift, whatever else you need to get done to feel still youthful and beautiful or whatever. And stop worrying.
It's so hard for them though to like let go though. And I think it's a sad truth. It really is. I mean, and I think too, for like my grandma, like I know that she totally means well. Like I know that her heart's in the right place, but like the house, it's big house, and she's had knee replacements already. And I just think it's way too big for them, period. Like my mom and my grandma, but she won't leave because we're right here. And she tells everybody, I'm not leaving my kids. Like, I'm not leaving them. I'm not leaving them. And they're my life. Like, that's all I have, you know? And I'm just like, oh. But I want her to also be safe. Yeah. And I just wished, you know, too, that she would kind of do for herself. But she's like, you know what? And then, you know, my grandpa lived there. So, you know, and she lost him too. So
the memories.
Yeah. It's the memories. And she's like, this is my house. Like, and then she gets upset with us, and I'm like, and she takes it the wrong way, I feel like, but I'm like, I'm just trying to just be smart and more like, what do you want to say? Like rational about it, you know? But, I know we mostly talked about our grandmas, but I feel like I know the reason why we talked about this topic was not just the grandmas the other day. But I think it was really well.
Today was a good episode. I think the main point to try to drive home to people is no one has your permission. You don't have to give anyone your permission to treat you bad.
Yeah.
And it's okay to get distance. And like Karen said, it doesn't have to be forever. It can be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, and like down the road. Like, it's just one of those things where you don't have to feel bad for needing some space. And I think that's the big thing I had to drive home to like my grandma, my aunt, like I said recently, was like, look, after everything that happened the last couple of years, Just give me a little room to breathe. I'll still do my best to let you see the kids, but like, I need some air. Like, I need some time to process, get my house in order. You know, I'm doing this business. There's so much going on for me that like let me breathe. And it's okay to ask for that. And it doesn't make you selfish.
Yeah, it's your life. Yeah. And I think like that's the hardest thing. Like that's definitely one of the things I was talking to my in therapy about, because it's like I understand I had been really dependent on my family, but not so much as a way of like, you know, I mean, it's just because I was trying to go to work and school and whatever, and as a single mom, but you know, things changed. And I think like that change is so hard for people. I know change is hard. Like I know it's hard. But, and especially I think for the older people and like with your family, if there wasn't those boundaries, oh Lord knows I'm trying to establish some boundaries with my family. And like when you don't have them and then you do it, they're like, wait, hold up. You know, you want me now I can't treat you like this, or now I can't say this to you, or now you're not going to tolerate this. And it's
and then it gets turned around to make it seem like you're just being ungrateful for all the help.
Yeah, ungrateful or crazy or toxic yourself, even though you're trying to create.
You're the toxic one, not the.
Yeah, I'm the toxic one. Now I'm the one who's got all the problems because I'm not taking anybody's crap anymore. Yeah, you got it. You're right. No.
I mean, the struggle, man. But yeah, you know, like I said, if you guys are having any issues or you can relate at all, always feel free to hop in the inboxes. You know, we'll talk.
Yes.
We'd be more than willing to talk to you. Or like the way Karin and I met through a Facebook group.
Yeah.
You can make some legitimate friends through there. So if you're, especially I know being a mom sometimes can feel kind of isolating because it's a little harder to leave the house and go out and do things and meet people. You know, take advantage of what the internet has given us, and sometimes you can meet some people on there.
Reach out to us.
People.
Yeah.
Feel free to reach out to
any of our networks.
And I've gotten good at the editing, guys, and I know how to drop the handles under here now.
Yeah,
so you're welcome.
We don't want anybody to feel alone. And like, if you're in that situation, if you can relate to like, actually like right now, if you were like Presley and like, you're like, you know what, I'm currently living with a family member, or I'm currently dependent on family members that it's not healthy for me. It's stressful or, you know, mentally damaging or whatever. And you're like, yeah, you know, I really would like to talk to you more about it. Reach out. And therapy too is a good one. Like I'm in weekly therapy, and that's also another way for you to talk to somebody if you don't feel like you can talk to anybody else. But we're here and we can relate. Maybe not exactly, you know, might not be the exact thing, but we're here to listen as well. So yeah,
to build a full community. And that's why, like I said, I made us a Patreon, and Patreon is a kind of a community thing. And it doesn't matter how much you want to give. You could do $1, $2, $5, $10 a month, $20 a month. It's a monthly thing. And it makes a community where you guys are going to get one-on-one one-on-one contact with me and Karin. You can get, we'll give you guys an extra episode of the podcast every month. I believe it's the $10 tiers and up get a free merchandise when they start their membership. And it's a great way to interact with us and interact with the Fit Trends community that we are trying to build around mental health and mom health and fitness and everything else that goes in between. But so I created that. I have if you go to the Instagram, I have one of those link tree things that gives all the links to both our socials and then all the Fit Trend socials. And then, like I said, our handles will be dropped below our below our pictures, because I figured out how to do that. I'm getting there. And
growth.
Yeah, guys, thank you for being on this ride with us. We are approaching 20 subs on the YouTube, which I know doesn't sound like much, but every goalpost is a goalpost. starts with 20 and then goes to 2000, you know? Never. We're just so thankful for you guys for listening, and we're happy to have you here.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So we will see you guys next week. We will be here fresh and ready to go with another
Yes.
crazy topic. We got some cool ones coming up. We got twin mom. We got the motherhood mental health part 2. We're going to do another one of that since our last one was kind of a crazy episode with sick babies and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we got all kinds of stuff coming up. But yeah, don't forget to check us out, guys. And thank you. We'll see you next time.